why is the youth vote important? Why does it matter? Let's give you some figures. 1 in 5 people globally who are under the age of 25 live in India. 40% of our population is under the age of 25. Our median age, ladies and gentlemen, is 28. I'll give you an example. The United States of America is about 38 and a half, and China is pushing 40 where the median age is concerned. But, there's a huge but to it. Have we leveraged this demographic properly is a question I'm going to be posing to the three of you. To begin with you, Chaitanya, I'm just looking at, at these numbers. Where Maharashtra is concerned, where the age group of 18 to 19 years, 4.5% of the state's total population is that. How much are the registered number of voters there? Not even 1%. Is your mic? Yeah, it's working. Go ahead.
It's audible? Okay.
Yeah, audible.
Before we answer that question, what's important to understand is that we have 900 million voters in India. Approximately close to 400 million voters are young. 65% of India's population is below the age of 35. But sadly, this population is not coming out to vote. And this is a fundamental problem in our democracy. To answer the question, we haven't used our demographic dividend at our best. Only celebrating that India is the world's largest democracy is not enough. We are merely celebrating what is biologically was going to happen or will happen. What we need to do is fundamentally change policies that are youth-centric and create more opportunities for young people. If you look at the union budget, it is approximately 4,500 crores.
Right.
And how much is the allocation for young people? The Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports has an allocation of 3,000 crores. Do the math, it's 0.07%. So we are merely saying that India is progressing in terms of youth development and progress, but there are not enough opportunities created on the ground level. So we haven't used our demographic to the best of our advantage. But yes, we can publicly say that India is the world's largest democracy, and the youth demographic is the highest in this country.
Nandini, why is it that the youth of our country, which is usually highly opinionated, because we see a lot of commentary, they're all very, very opinionated and politically as well. But we don't see that materialize, especially when it comes down to registered voters, where they actually actively go out, cast their vote in an informed manner.
First of all, thank you for having me. So I just want to highlight two major issues why youths are not coming and voting. First, that we have a lot of young migrant youths. So not all youths have that, facility, that logistics and financial facilities that they can go back to their constituency and cast their vote. It's a major concern. So ECI recently proposed the voting facilities for NRIs that they can have, it's a proposal that they can have electronically transmitted postal ballot system, which is commendable. But why can't we extend the same facility for the young migrant workers, which also involves the youths? So this is a major concern also, and ADR actually organized a webinar on this for the voting facilities of the migrant workers. Therein 3 former CECs, that is Dr. Zaidi, Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, and Shri O.P. Rawat attended it. And one of the suggestions was that it can be extended to the youth, to the young migrant voters, and especially all migrant workers. So, and ADR also wrote to the ECI. We suggested the ECI also that we should have electronically transmitted postal ballot system even for the migrant workers, which involves youths. Another thing is the voter apathy, especially amongst the youth. I asked one of my friends, why you don't go and cast vote? And the answer was, all are the same. All are the same. What difference it can make? But we have the solution, and that solution is Nota. None of the above option is with us. But we need to give more power to Nota. And this was actually done. It's not like something which cannot be done. So in 2018, then Maharashtra Election Commission of India, Shri J.S. Saharia, he declared that if Nota receives maximum votes in an assembly constituency, then none of the contesting candidates will be declared elected and re-elections will be held. So this power can be given to the Nota, so why we are not doing so? why we are not giving better options to the voters. So once the more power comes to Nota, youths will actually go and vote to Nota.
You see that happening, but Nikhil, I want to bring you in this conversation because, you know, so very often we are sitting in television studios and we deliberate and we talk of this vote bank, which really doesn't follow traditional markers, you know, the woman vote bank, how it can swing elections, you know, when it comes down to race, the usual traditional markers, it doesn't really, you know, affirm to that, caste, religion, none of that. The youth vote can be exactly that when it comes down to swinging elections. But it seems with the kind of sheer numbers that we have, that they don't understand the value of their own vote or their numbers that they actually represent.
It's not about value, Preeti. I think, you know, further to what everyone over here has been saying, we've done roadshows across the country. We've met about 15,000 young people over the last 4 years in campuses in India. And the thing we constantly hear about from young people isn't just about, is not about the state of India or the state of the world. It is about how their own lives are just hard, you know. The number one problem in our country at this point for young people still remains unemployment. It is still careers, it is still education. If you have a gender split, women are more likely to say women's safety, they're more likely to say harassment and abuse. These are still the problems, you know, it's not national level problems. Even in 2019, we did an exit poll with Indian Express. These were the things that were still coming out. When you talk to them about voting, you know, very interesting statistic we also had was 68% youth support Nota. They said that, you know, we'd rather not vote than find a vote going to some party that doesn't really care about making our lives where we are better. Right. Are we, you know, I mean, again, Chaitanya gave these wonderful statistics. There is 65% of our country is under 35 and the average Lok Sabha age of a politician is 54. Only 12% people under 40 in the Lok Sabha. If that's we talk about youth, we project this image of India as the world's youngest country. But how much are we listening to young people? How much are we involving them in the political process?
And for those who are involving, Nandini and I were having a chat right before this. You know, one takes a quick look at even the Dusu elections that have happened of late. In terms of sheer money, power, influence, political alignment, for someone who's fresh off the cuff and really wants to actively get into politics, they really can't see a way in because look at the candidates.
Exactly. So Dusu election is like, so Dusu elections, it sets a precedent at a very educational level. Okay, so there is a very nice coverage, in-depth coverage by India Today only on Dusu elections. Therein, one of the students said that because of Dusu elections, the entire atmosphere of the college has disrupted, which you see at the larger scale as well. When Lok Sabha elections happen, when state assembly elections happen, it's exact replica. And also, one of the students also mentioned that a Dusu candidate spends rupees 5,000 every minute. So, and you also see the same thing, the replica at a broader level, at a larger level, during the Lok Sabha elections and state assembly elections. So the question is like, what kind of precedent we are setting that people, that students or voters with minimal financial backing, they cannot contest in elections. That is one negative precedent we are setting. The another one is that a lot of money, muscle power, and money, muscle power, these things are being normalized during the Dusu elections. So that's another major concern, that what kind of precedent we are setting for the students, that too at an educational level.
Very interesting because I come from Delhi and while we saw Dusu elections, I come from a college which used to not be part of Dusu. So we used to have our own elections. And what's really interesting to say is that there are lots, I come from LSR, so a lot of women who've come from my college have gone on to take up political posts and done it way better than possibly Dusu candidates who've come up the whole hierarchy of an ABVP or an NSUI. Because the process is very different there. It's more internalized, it's more personal. But Chaitanya?
Just to add on to what my panelists have said, that young people are very, very interested. We ran something called the Youth Manifesto in the city of Mumbai to ask young people what they want from their elected representatives. And we had a huge list where young people have spoken about what they want. So there is interest.
What is it that they want?
They want good ventilation at railway stations. They want wider roads.
Developmental work.
Yes. They want students Students' Union to be back in Mumbai. Like she pointed out, since 1993, Mumbai has not had a Students' Union election. So you separated politics from campus. You've not allowed young people to enter politics at a level. You've not nurtured young politicians. We're a young country with a population of young voters, and we are governed by leaders who are 65 and above. So how is there going to be youth representation anywhere in this country? And I have traveled to different campuses, not only in Mumbai, but in Maharashtra and Delhi. And trust me, young people have wants, they have desires. They want MLC elections to be made easier. They want campus politics. Now, campus politics does not necessarily mean what's happening in Delhi University. It can be refined, it can be made in a correct way. But there is no political will. There needs to be some person who sits and says that I will create this change. There is nobody trying to
because three of you are so closely involved in the mind of the, the young voter. Nikhil, we're having this whole conversation of how informed, the youth is. But is the youth more informed, or if I can say, more influenced?
I wish I could say that they were more informed. Unfortunately, they don't have the time in their lives to try and seek out the information. So whatever information is reaching them passively is the information that they take in. And what is happening today, it's content creators, it's YouTubers, it is politicians or entrepreneurs, taking to the internet or trying to reach out to them. And whatever the algorithms tell them, they kind of take as the worldview. If not that, it is people around them who might do it. And they don't have the time to be informed, Preeti, unfortunately. And again, the crux of the issue, unfortunately, is the lives of young people in our country are very hard,
Right.
And एक ज़माने में क्या होता था ना, लोग क्या कहेंगे was a big deal.
Right.
Then over the last 5 years, we started seeing that because of a new generation of young people that has grown up on the internet, they have identities that their parents don't allow them to have. And then it became parents क्या कहेंगे. Today, when we are talking to young people, they are actually comparing themselves with themselves they were yesterday. So it's now become ki main kya, what is the younger me looking at me and saying today? The internet has given so many comparison points to them. When they are on the internet today, they're looking at 3 million, 30 million people who are doing better than them. The distance between what your life could be and is very, very obvious today than it was when I was growing up. 20 years ago, I did not know what kind of a life I can have which will make my life better. Today I know. And when I don't see that happening around me, when I don't see, politicians in my state or my, city actually doing something to make, as he said, ventilation, making small incremental changes in the lives around me, then I'm just I'm disinterested in the process.
Disinterested and maybe influenced a little more than being informed. Chaitanya,
Correct.
You said more informed, but do you also see the young voter look at politics from a more intersectional lens? On, they pick and choose of what really they want, because it was interesting. Nikhil and I were having this conversation right before we got on stage. Give those figures out, Nikhil. In terms of, did you see where you were talking to the young, a Modi wave coming? And what is the difference when you ask them about BJP and you ask them about Modi in general? What is the answer that you get?
We did in 2019, we did an exit poll with Indian Express. There were 2-3 factors that came out. 86% of the country said that they, care about PM Modi and they see him.
86%. This is 2019.
This is 2019.
Right.
That they look at him positively, and if they did vote, which is not to say that they are voting, if they did vote, they would vote for him. At the same time, when we go deeper into it, what political parties do you support, etc., etc. First of all, 56% said that they'd look at politics negatively. Only 33% said that they even care about politics or would want to vote. And out of that, if you go even deeper, only 40% are saying that I actually like BJP. And most people are saying that, we don't like the polarization in the country. That's
a mind-boggling figure, because 40% said they like BJP, but 86% said that they like Modi.
It is about the brand today. It is about the individual. Then it is about, politics.
But somewhere down the line, even in politics, it explains why you have a state versus a center election.
Absolutely.
On why possibly you see other parties winning in the state, but when it comes down to the center, it's Modi. Chaitanya, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, like he stated right now with respect to the statistics, a lot of surveys have been conducted, political, non-political. We conducted a survey wherein we tried to analyze how does a voter actually vote and how does he decide who he's supposed to vote for, because that is the fundamentally most important question. And in our data, we found out that 80% of these students, the data sample size was 2,000 students. Collectively, what was said is they vote on past performances, then partially age, then political leanings, and so on and so forth. So that means young India is aware, young India is conscious, young India understands. So this perception that young India is not interested in politics and voting should be removed to an extent, because only going out to vote can't be the measuring scale to determine whether somebody is politically interested in the role. So it's time that politicians step up, understand what young people want,
Right.
and create steps for us.
Nandini, do you see that happening in terms of, because now the political language is evolving and changing a bit, in terms of how politicians or parties engage with the young? You can see that shift happening. You know, at one level, if you see a Rahul Gandhi go out and try and make connect on the ground level and maybe sit in DU, though DU elections, the NSUI didn't do well. But on the other hand, let's look at the BJP. Of late, there's a thrust on communicating with young India through maybe the language of very popular YouTubers, where the ideology might swing one way, but very, very popular YouTubers. Do you see that connect happening?
So if you see in general, if I take all the entertainment people, everyone right now in the society who call themselves celebrities or politicians, they all are working on relatability on social media platforms. Am I relatable to my target audience or not? So yes, they all are trying to be relatable. They all are targeting their audiences properly. And yes, influencer marketing is the budding way to, you know, reach out to
Right.
the target audience and to the youths, because yes, youths follow these influencers. That's the truth. And I also want to highlight something, because we were talking about informed voting. I
Right.
think it's very important. It's just not important that youths go and cast their votes. It's also important that they should be an informed voter rather than an influenced one. That is very important. Influence can not only be just from the social media platforms, it's also from the family members. It's also from your friends. So it's very important for youths to be an informed voter. Do we have a solution? The question is that. Yes, we have the solution, and that is myneta.info. It's a data repository run by my organization, Association for Democratic Reforms, where the candidate, you can find the
Know
candidate
your constituency.
information.
You know, but that's something that at least, you know, for example, I hear a lot when we go out on the field in terms of reporting on election. Away from, you know, what are regular markers, we see the youth always talk about, I will vote for my, my local leader. I will vote for what he's done. I will vote for my constituency. And you see that difference between, there is an age difference in that. But Nikhil, when we're talking about influencers, do you see it work? For example, do you see, with what, in the last couple of interviews, we've seen a lot of very big leaders from the Bharatiya Janata Party give interviews to YouTubers, which have been wildly successful at that. But also on the other side, you see a Rahul Gandhi biking through Leh Ladakh. You know, you're talking the language of the youth. You're trying to make that connect.
You know, again, as I said, do they get influenced? Yes. Are all political leaders trying to get them to be influenced? Yes. But as Nandini said, unfortunately in our country, not enough leaders care about ensuring that outside of the good work that they talk about and they try to influence young voters, can we get more of them involved in the political process? Can that information about why to vote, what is the difference when you see a BJP or a Congress or any other party leader on a YouTube show? How does that affect your daily life? Are they your leader? Are they in your state? Are they in your constituency? Are they actually affecting your life on the ground level? They may not even know all of that. And how do we involve them? 15 crore new voters in 2024 apparently. We don't know how many of them are going to vote. We don't know how many of them among young people, how many of them will actually cast the ballot? And we don't know which way they will vote. So obviously the attempt right now is to ensure that they vote in a way that their favorite YouTubers or content creators or influencers are talking about. But at the same time, can we try and find a way to inform them, make them aware why their vote matters, and what are the local leaders whose lives are directly affecting them? Who can get you better employment, who can get you better education, And I think, I mean, this year, I mean, in 2024, one of the big things that we have noticed at Yuva, is the gender split is going to be very important. The gender split is going to be very important among younger voters. We have constantly started seeing that men and male voters are going towards slightly more conservative politics, whereas female voters are going through, slightly more progressive politics. Female voters want to break out of their lives. They want to move away, whether it is from their cities to another cities, whether it is from this country to another country, while men at this point of time are looking at local places and trying to figure out what can I do to make the place that I'm at better. What can I do? They are smart enough now to realize that maybe spending X amount of money and going to the big cities may not work out for me. Make in India has helped. Atmanirbharta has helped. They are trying to start their side hustles. They're trying to start their businesses. But at the same time, it doesn't matter if it's the, national leaders telling them that I'm going to do it, whether it's a local leader, they're going to go whichever way is going to make their life aspirational, not polarized.
Chaitanya, we're going to take last two questions where we talk about the informed or the influenced, and we talk about trends coming in for 2024 in terms of which way the voters might go. At one level, where you talk about informed, when we're talking about my own issues, there's unemployment, there's this, it's a tough life, and these are my main issues. Then there is also falling into narratives, which is, we are going to see a highly polarized election, which is going to be very big on religious polarization as well. The writing's already on the wall. Do you see what he's talking about, a gender split there? Is that what we're talking about, the gender split?
So I think that, of course, I agree to what Nikhil sir has to say. Even if you look at data, Maharashtra is close to 98 lakh voters, close to 1 crore of voters. Of that, majoritively of those voters, women are registered more than men, but are not coming out to vote as much. This is also a fundamental problem. Second, going on to the influencers issue of getting influence, the influencers are becoming the actors are then becoming the politicians, and they are overall having this nexus wherein they're influencing a lot of people. But let me assure you with this, that the young mind is very revolutionary. They think differently, they walk differently, they will hear what you have to say, but still go out to vote in a very, very different way. You can't buy a young person's vote, at least in today's time. That's what I believe in. There is obviously a divide, and we hope that voter education becomes part of the syllabus. It is something that everybody should learn, should understand, because in the larger perspective, it is important to have a democracy with informed voters.
Right. Nandini, do you see, all right, so we're going to quickly wrap up. Just a quick question on that. Do you want to take that conversation further in terms of trends coming in?
I just want to
where
say...
2024 is concerned.
So I just want to talk about the women representation also. Since the women representation is so low, but the women participation is so high. In the last Lok Sabha elections, women voted more than men. So it's also about that when these political leaders are coming and talking about are being relatable. Why are not they being relatable by giving tickets to more young candidates and especially women? So now that the women reservation bill has happened, let's see. Now it has become a law. Let's see what happens. I hope that changes. So maybe voting behavior will change also eventually when more women candidates will.
No, we don't know when that's going to happen because yes, what we
can I add one point to what Chaitanya said?
Yes, quickly.
I think that while Chaitanya also said, I think young people can see through some of the bullshit that they comes across to them, because ultimately you are seeing...
What's the bullshit that we're talking about?
No, ultimately we talk the bullshit that a lot of people try to influence them with. I think while of course there's no doubt that lives of young people have been steadily, since liberalization, getting better. But today, you see the same divides. Where a startup leader today, we are turning into unicorns. The CEOs are getting the same amount of, insane amount of money. Gig workers today are still fighting for labors and still trying to, and they're also young. The same 19-year-old Zepto person is getting a crazy amount of unicorn money. At the same time, unfortunately, the gig worker who works for him is still struggling to put money on the table. So the divides of rich and poor are still very, very much the same. And if you're not going to if you're going to look at youth as a monolith, and you're only going to look at the people who have the money, we're going to have a problem.
It's an intersectional lens. You've got to look at it at that. Appreciate all three of you for joining us. Thank you. We do know that the vote of the youth is important. Let's hopefully, see that materialize in terms of participation, both in politics and voting. Thank you.
Thank you
for joining us. Thanks.